Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today as we discuss the astrological energies of April 22nd until April 29th. As we are now in Taurus season, and over this next week, we have three main energies that are dominating the energetic landscape. We have a big Venus week as Venus interacts with multiple planets as well as moves into Gemini. We also will see Uranus enter Gemini this week on April 25th. And the third main energy is an ongoing square between the Sun in Taurus and Pluto in Aquarius, which is exact at 5 degrees on April 25th. But there is ongoing tension right now that we are feeling as evolutionary forces are requiring us to move ahead and make changes, even if we're feeling slow to do so and not fully prepared. I'll be discussing all of that and more in today's show. But first, I want to start with discussing some Sun in Taurus themes as the Sun begins its journey through the second sign of the zodiac, which is fixed Earth. And this is a transition from the fast-moving, dynamic, accelerated energies of Aries season into intentionally slowing down and stabilizing yourself, which benefits your nervous system, your emotional well-being, your energetic state, and also a reminder that you are in charge of all of your energy and that it is quite wise right now to ensure that you're trusting what you need even during these very unstable times. The Taurus energy is deeply somatic. It's connected to the 5 senses as well as pleasure, touch, and nourishment. And so this could be a time to listen into how your body is processing all the energies swirling around us and how you can drop into the wisdom of your body consciousness that might reveal where you have been tightening or bracing yourself in some capacity as we navigate through these big energies. The Taurus energy seeks comfort, security, beauty, harmony, and creativity. This is where you desire to build a life that deeply aligns with your values, your joys, and what you want to experience in your everyday world. The Taurus energy also brings our attention to what is taking up space in our physical environment. And you might start to notice something, even something simple in your living room or kitchen or anywhere you go in the day that you're realizing it's adding to your life and bringing about happiness and peace. Or perhaps you're tuning into what is no longer in alignment with what you enjoy or what you want. Because Taurus is fixed energy, it relates to what we accumulate in our lives and what we are drawn to that enhances our spaces and our environments. It's also the first earth sign and brings us into our first conscious relationship with not only what we own and accumulate and invest in, but our relationship with finances and money. So the Sun in Taurus could be highlighting something for you around your relationship with abundance in all forms based on your own personal self-worth and belief system, which contributes to the foundation of your life and what you are building for yourself. And so this is a time of year to check in on what truly supports you and where have you perhaps unconsciously applied limitations or boundaries on your own personal self-worth. This is a time to strengthen what you are here to experience in the physical world, meaning this is a time to look at how can you believe in yourself and your self-worth even more, knowing that you are worthy of all of your dreams, potentials, abilities, and every experience you want to create in this lifetime. This is a time to also examine your own unconscious navigation system through the world, where you are assessing things based on their cost and your perception of what they're worth. This could be a foundational belief system that also takes you into how you express yourself and your creativity. Taurus is a very creative energy that, again, wants to make the world more beautiful, more pleasurable, more enjoyable. And so there could be things you're realizing in your own experience that you're ready to up level, that you want more of something. You want to enhance it or bring it out. Maybe there's parts of yourself that you even want to feel stronger in, loving and accepting. And this would be a beautiful practice to move through Taurus season with. How to be more self-confident, more loving, more self-accepting, and to monitor the messages you give yourself or don't give yourself around those self-perceptions. This could be a time when you're also seeking more calm, peace, and stillness. With the current frequencies being so erratic, there could be a need now to look at how you can intentionally touch grass and realign yourself with the calming stability of anything in nature. You might feel naturally drawn to some of these Taurus themes right now, but it's important to note that we still have a stellium of planets in Aries that are moving and shaking and wanting things to happen. And you could find that you're moving between these two modes of that ongoing strong Aries burst of action and courage, and then the Taurus energies that are seeking to be more receptive and slower moving. And the sun in Taurus says it's important to be intentional with how you are using your energy and listening to the body, listening to what is good for your energy. So even if you just need to lay on the couch for 2 hours, that would be a beautiful way to honor what the body needs and to allow your energy to perhaps clear out anything that has been too much or too active during Aries season. It's almost like the sun in Taurus is keeping a very steady pace at this time that is essential when all these other energies are ramping up and are moving ahead quite rapidly. In fact, that sun in Taurus is the only intentional, slow-moving energy at this time. And that brings us to what is developing this week that is quite busy, surprising, and active. The sun in Taurus is in an ongoing square to Pluto in Aquarius at 5 degrees for most of this week. The square is exact on April 25th, but the bigger picture is that we're moving through a tension around growth, stability, and disruption, that there is a bigger evolutionary requirement to move outside of a comfort zone, and you could find you're resisting it in some manner. It doesn't feel safe. You don't have clarity. You're seeking more confirmation around what to do or what to change. And so it's coming up against the sun in Taurus desire for consistency, security, slow movement, and tangible results. And this Pluto in Aquarius is bringing in that transformational pressure that you can't ignore. There's something here that is requiring you to evolve, and it's happening in a way that is digging into some type of deeper truth around who you came here to be. And I'm feeling it as maybe wanting to delay or push back something in order to gain more clarity first. And part of that sun in Taurus resistance is because the energy could feel really big, especially that Pluto influence. And so you could sense that a deep change is unfolding and you're not fully prepared yet. You're not fully ready. And that's where the resistance is happening, because otherwise the rest of the planets are on board with this new start. And that was a big part of Aries season. But now the sun in Taurus is saying, wait, I still need more time to figure out this or to get this part of my life grounded and clear. There could be an internal conflict around the change that's to come, because the change that's to come isn't fully known or seen. And then that's when that sun in Taurus will resist it and say, well, I don't know if I really want to choose this because it's uncertain. What am I choosing? What are all the variables? And the truth is you don't know, and you won't know until that change happens. There's only so much that we can find out in advance or behind the scenes. It's kind of like there's only so many things we can investigate and vet until it's time to make the change, and then you learn more as you go. So this is a week where that discomfort might be even more powerful, and it stirs up fears, which is one thing that Pluto transits always do, especially in a square, is that it's stirring up your fears of the unknown. How is this going to change me? How is my life going to change? How is something going to shift beyond what is known or beyond what I've planned for? And all of those questions can stop the Taurus energy right in its tracks. But Pluto is the stronger evolutionary force, where there's a part of your consciousness and awareness that knows that something big is evolving within you, and that it's also being carried and beautifully supported through these energies in Aries that are absolutely ready for the new start and the beginnings that have been coming together. So if this is a week where your fears come up and the unknowns are getting to you, just know that that's also validation that you're in alignment with these cosmic forces. You're right on time for these questions, and it's your humanness that simply is trying to plan and understand what is going to happen next. But the bigger overarching energy right now is that change is happening rapidly, and that is going to be part of our new normal. There's going to be more ongoing dynamic shifts that occur out of the blue, and this is part of what we've been preparing for in order to trust what is best for you, to trust your energy and your intuition in those split second moments of decisiveness. And of course, everyone feels this differently. Not everyone wants to make quick moving decisions, but part of the shift that's coming up right now is that you can always trust yourself. You can trust yourself and your core wisdom even more than perhaps you've allowed yourself to believe. And that's going to be one of our key skills that we work with through the rest of this year and beyond, is that you can trust yourself and what you're picking up on even before your mind fully understands it. And it can feel like you're taking a bigger risk, or you're doing something wild, or you're being urged to move in a new direction or do something you've never done before. And all of that is right on time with the energy of the end of April and into May. So I offer that as a form of validation that there's been a lot more lining up behind the scenes than we're even aware of. But I feel like the universe has been supporting you for a new start and a new endeavor. But part of what could be coming up is getting out of your own way, right? Where sometimes we overthink it, we overplan, we overprepare. We try to create safety while navigating through the unknown. Very human, very normal to even need that or seek that out. But this week especially could be giving you greater insights into those fears or desire to have something clearly known. And then there could be even more messages coming through that feel quite exciting and buzzy and stimulating, that are saying, whatever happens, I'll figure it out. Whatever occurs, I'll know what to do. Whatever way this unfolds, it's going to be okay. Whatever happens next, I'm going to have it covered. Whatever I risk, or however I choose to be courageous, something awesome is going to come from it. And so these would be ways to address anything that's coming up that's applying that pressure, and it's maybe keeping you stuck because that sun in Taurus squaring Pluto in Aquarius is occurring in two fixed signs where neither wants to budge until push comes to shove. And right now that push is coming to shove. Things are going to happen. There's going to be something that breaks through because of the tension and pressure. Movement is going to happen. And it could be quite delightful what unfolds. And I'm saying that because this is a big week for Venus transits, and also Uranus goes into Gemini, which is a big deal. So let's look at both of these because they are beautifully syncing up here. Now, Venus is in Taurus until April 23rd. And on Venus's last day in her home sign of Taurus, she has a conjunction to Uranus in Taurus at 29 degrees. They are both at the final degree here of Taurus, which is a significant release point that brings about needed change. Whatever has been blocking the path or slowing down growth and evolution is going to bust through. And Venus brings in a more graceful way of doing that. That's because Venus in Taurus is refined, practical, and elegant. And her conjunction to Uranus in Taurus for the very last time in our life is when something is meant to be drastically shifted and changed. And so at a personal level, if you've been struggling with something, maybe you want to create something new or take a risk or try something wild and different, Venus in Taurus is giving you the message that you are worthy of that in this lifetime. You can absolutely powerfully create this change that you desire, even if you've been afraid of it, sort of like going skydiving, where there can be a lot of adrenaline, a huge rush to do it, and then you're also terrified. Well, this is where the energies are saying, something good comes from it, because that's what Venus brings about. She has a radiance and calming presence that gives you the strength to do the new thing, to take that new risk, or to follow something because of how you value it or you want it. And this is where there could be some delightful surprises with Venus conjunct Uranus here at 29 degrees of Taurus. And it also has the potential to set you free. That's one thing that Uranus desires. Uranus is the liberator and the awakener and wants you to be open to your own evolution, especially in these Venus energies of love, peace, connection, joy, creativity, personal expression, determination, and self-love, to name a few. There could be something this week that you feel is deeply shifting your self-love frequency. You could feel that something at a core level of your being is changing how you see yourself and your worthiness of magnetizing in more of what you want because your self-love frequency has elevated. This is certainly about up-leveling that heart expression or that heart chakra. There could be bursts of energy coming through the heart. There could be bursts of insight around what you want next in your life, and it sets you off on a new path. This conjunction with Uranus is a big deal because, again, Uranus is breaking away previous versions of self or previous levels of consciousness that wanted you to maintain a certain frequency. And it feels like there is a push-pull with this. And that could be really strong since Uranus is at the very end of its time in Taurus, where you could have some big realizations around what you've been resisting, what you've been pushing away, also what you've been afraid to attach to, what you've been afraid to become comfortable with or call in. So this could play out, of course, in many different ways, but Uranus and Taurus is saying you're worth more than what you thought you could create or receive. And so this could be, again, some delightful surprises, big breakthroughs, and even really positive developments based on what you're now ready to release. So stay aware this week of what is no longer a fit for your evolving self. What is no longer in alignment with your awakening self? Because this might be a time when you really start to feel that now your physical reality is changing because of how your own personal self-love frequency is changing. Now, after they have this conjunction, Venus enters Gemini April 23rd, and then Uranus enters Gemini 2 days later on April 25th. So both move in to Gemini, and of course the bigger influence is Uranus entering Gemini. And so as they travel into the third astrology sign together, this is mutable air. This is an awakening to more choices, more options, more things to say. It could be easier to communicate, write, speak, and move, because this is a very active degree point with Venus and Uranus at 0 degrees of Gemini. And it's also bringing about an initiation into more of your throat chakra expressions, as well as your third eye growth. I feel like many people are going to have these huge, expansive developments in their claircognizance, clairvoyance, clairsentience, etc. You're going to start to feel that everything bursts open at a whole new level of your being that we had an opportunity to sample in 2025. That's because Uranus was last in Gemini from July 7th to November 7th, 2025. And if you were to look back on that time period, maybe there were new abilities and skills that were uploading for you, that you were playing with and sampling and figuring out. Well, now we're going to have these come online in a very clear, prominent way, where you're just going to have an understanding or messages that speak to you. This is a very clear movement of information where there is no density and there is no static. It's like the skies are blue and everything comes through quickly, and there is more that you understand at a faster rate. Now, this will depend on your natal Mercury, because your natal Mercury is related to your human cognition skills, what you think about, what you process, what you take in, the time you need to make a decision or to arrive at an understanding. Well, Uranus moving into Gemini is basically upgrading all of us at a mental level. Our cognitive patterns, our cognitive process is going to be shifting, and the invitation here is to stay curious and open to what you didn't know. So Uranus in Gemini is where it's important to ask questions, gather information, be willing to see things in a new light or in a new way. In other words, it's about not making assumptions, not assuming to know the answers, or not being locked into certain expectations of what something should be or what something is. So our minds are going to be expanding here. And this is a week where you might be feeling it more personally. This is also a week where, with that Venus also entering Gemini, there's going to be more help and support in some capacity. Now, Venus does relate to relationships, connections, who you share your thoughts with, who you exchange emails with and text messages, and who you're talking to on a daily basis. Venus in Gemini increases the pace of these exchanges, brings in more to discuss and think about. Venus in Gemini tends to move faster and talk faster on her own, but when she is conjunct Uranus here, there is going to be more divine knowingness that you just get right away. You're going to have some clear answers, directions, ideas, and plans over this next week. So keep that in mind, that things might come together very quickly. There is a rapid increase in what is aligning. I'm also feeling this as very strong synchronicity, things that are just happening simultaneously out of the blue, and they are amazing and inspiring, and something that is difficult for the mind to fully comprehend. There could be fast-moving developments here, like plans coming together, an idea takes off, a project forms, and before you know it, it has a life of its own. There's fun here in this energy, so stay open to anything that is speaking to you that feels lively, exciting, enjoyable. Surprises and shocks are also part of this energy signature. And so it will be important to be very clear in our language and our words, and to remain mindful around what we're saying and what we are choosing to do. Now, this Uranus energy is revolutionary and rebellious. It's no one's going to tell me what to say. No one's going to tell me what to think. So there's also going to be a lot more around the themes of free speech, revolutionary ideas, truth tellers, and higher levels of awakening. All of this is going to create even more to talk about and discuss. And it's definitely going to be stirring up more of our own cognitive patterns and processes. I think it's going to be interesting then to evaluate and understand how this increase in information and communications will be affecting our own logical reasoning and thought processes. And if you look at it through that lens, there are typically 3 core ways that we filter through information to arrive at certain conclusions. And so there is deductive logic, inductive logic, and abductive logic. Deductive logic is where you start with something general and then you move it into a more specific understanding. Inductive logic is the opposite, where you start with a specific and you're moving it into something more general, which can also involve pattern recognition and how specific examples create a general conclusion. Then we have abductive logic, which is where we gather information and then relate it to a most likely cause. And abductive logic deals with likelihood, not certainty. So where I'm going with this is that it's the abductive logic that allows you to navigate uncertainty and make better informed, intuitive decisions. It's where you're able to see that, okay, what is most likely going to happen here? And how am I interpreting the potentials and odds of what's to come or what could happen next? Inductive reasoning is where you learn from experience and you see your own patterns. And then abductive reasoning is where you're then able to make forward moving decisions based on what you have, what you've been through, what you've learned, while also recognizing there is no certainty here, but I feel good about this. This makes sense to me. This is in alignment with the direction I want to go and what I am creating next. So this is a time to actually be more aware of your own cognitive processes and where you get stuck or where you shut down, of where you maybe are limiting yourself, or perhaps even your thinking is too much based in the past and it's preventing you from moving forward or from trying something new. Deductive logic is where you want certainty and structure and where you want things to be clearly defined. But this is a time period where there are more options, more uncertainty, more ways that things can play out in your favor, more ways that things can benefit you and support you in your growth and development. And if your mindset is in that place of openness to the unknown, but a recognition of what you've been through, what you've learned, what has shaped you and formed you, you're actually in a stronger position here to move forward and to accept that it's okay to not know everything, but I know myself. I know that I'm capable of handling whatever transpires next. And I'm also open to what I don't know, to what I'm learning as I go, simply because of how the energies on the planet are greatly accelerating and changing. So this is going to be important for this week and going forward, but especially with this Venus and Gemini conjunct Uranus and Gemini, and being ready to move ahead and make new decisions, but from a grounded, strong place. Now, after both move into Gemini, this Venus is more active as she has a sextile to Neptune in Aries at 3 degrees. On April 26th, then 2 days later, Venus in Gemini trines Pluto in Aquarius at 5 degrees, followed by a square to the nodes of fate at 6 degrees on April 29th. So a very active Venus in Gemini means there's a lot we are processing and choosing that is meant to align with what you really love and desire. Are you making choices based on what you really want, or are they more impulsive, immediate decisions based on where you've been or what you thought you desired. There is an evolutionary experience here for this Venus and Gemini. This is time to own your expressions, to really open up more of that throat chakra and third eye chakra so that you can fully see that what you want is possible for you, to ensure that your mind is in a healthy space to communicate and express yourself. And then this is also going to be a time period where the universe delivers opportunities and openings for moving ahead based on what you want. Okay, a lot of movement here for Venus. A lot of things too that I'm feeling are about how can you create more joy and love in your life regardless of what is going on in the world at large. How can you be in commanding control of what is good for you, what is good for your energy, your body, your soul, your heart? How can you be in full ownership of this is what I'm choosing because I love it. I like it. It makes me happy and it lights me up. This Venus is asking you to expand that in your own auric frequency right now and to be in a place of speaking into existence that which you desire. And not only speaking it, but thinking it, and to allow some new higher thoughts to arrive that maybe shift your own consciousness around what you are manifesting. And this could be a week where you get past any of those limitations or blockages that have been holding you back from fully owning what you want in this new chapter. This is exciting energy. These aspects bring about feel-good developments. Venus and Gemini sextiling Neptune and Aries is giving life to a new dream, is speaking it into existence, thinking of it in an optimistic, exciting way, pulling in the ideal outcomes, opening up to more than what you previously thought was possible. Then when she trines Pluto in Aquarius, there's a force here of creative power. There is a willingness to do something differently, whether that is to speak or express yourself with greater strength and power. Maybe there's a new dream that you're seeing the plans for that are coming together. Venus in Gemini does relate to the details and particulars that get us moving, where you're planning that weekend trip, or maybe you're looking at your summer plans and there's something you want to do this summer that beautifully inspires you. This is a great week for making those plans and bringing things together. Venus in Gemini trining Pluto in Aquarius is going to break you out of any limitations and invite you to take a risk of some kind that you no longer worry about or even overthink, because there's a need here to break through any fears and to see what's possible. It's like the horizon opens up and there's more to move towards with Venus trining Pluto. And then Venus squares the nodes of fate. And this means she's being brought to a choice point to choose her intuitive spiritual self. That's because that north node is in Pisces. And so Venus is squaring the nodes of fate and she's feeling like, okay, am I going to trust myself here? Am I going to move in this new direction and not think I have to get it all meticulously right or overanalyze it? Because Venus in Gemini is also squaring that south node in Virgo, which wants everything to be properly prepared and beautifully ready before saying yes. But there is an energy here where Venus in Gemini is being guided to make a decision based on trusting herself. And there could be something that you are gravitating towards or now creating that is beautifully aligned with your heart chakra, your self-worth, and your love that maybe is meant to even, I'm seeing light up the world, that's meant to be bigger than you. It's meant to be more expansive. And that's also because of how this Venus in Gemini is sextiling Neptune, trining Pluto. So the energies are bigger than the individual, and they leave an impact that is powerfully needed right now. In fact, it's reminding me of three of my friends. I have three friends who are all getting married this year. And all of their engagements and marriages came about quickly. And everyone in their life was so excited, so delighted. It just created all this joy. And I was speaking to one of my friends about this a few days ago, and she's like, when we announced to people that we were getting married, it brought so much joy to our family and to our lives that it changed how people were feeling in their own lives because of everything going on in the world. And so this is where it's important to remember that when there is a lot happening that is fear-based or destabilizing, it's stirring up uncertainty and even bringing us into those human cycles of fear and limitation. We are powerful creators of our reality. You are powerfully in charge of where your consciousness goes and what you want to create in your life. And so if there is more talk of fear-based developments or potentials, then we have the choice to say, well, I'm going to focus on what is love-based, what lights me up, what would be something joyful to invest in and to create in my world. Where can I then balance that so that there is more joy, peace, and love for me to embody and embrace, where I'm not feeding those other density fields or lower timelines. But how can you be in your power as a divine creator to determine this is what I will choose, this is what I will create, in whatever form that is for you, in whatever ways that move you and inspire you? And so for three of my friends, it was through their divine unions, which are happening, by the way, which are occurring and are beautifully needed right now. We need more divine unions and sacred partnerships on the planet more than ever. But that's just one form of love. This is where you're looking at, how can I create more love that is grounded, pure, and true? And this is also part of the Sun and Taurus energies, getting back to that, where we determine what we can add into our lives and into our spaces that beautifully reflect our values. So this would be a week to stay open to what is coming through for you that elevates your energy, that expands the frequency you want to bring into a space, and that allows you to be in your power as an active creator of your reality. If this is your intention, this is a week that might surprise you. This is a week where you might even feel that anything from the past is blasted away, that Uranus entering into Gemini is clearing out previous imprints, debris, patterns, attachments, or experiences that no longer align with where you're going next. There could be some very impactful energies that you sense have just left the building. They're no longer in your awareness, in your consciousness, or in your energy field. And this could directly relate to this Venus energy. And that's because of how not only does Venus have this conjunction to Taurus and then enters Gemini with Uranus, but I feel like this energy is beautifully preparing us for new future potentials based on what we came here to create, love, and cherish. I'm feeling like this Venus is being so powerfully elevated and infused this week that you might even be surprised at what starts speaking to you, at what starts grabbing your attention or pulling you in, or that all of a sudden you're really interested in something for the first time in your life or at a whole new level. Because I'm seeing that this heart chakra is being cleared, and I'm also seeing the same for the sacral chakra. It feels like this is where strong frequency elevations are happening. Of course, simply take it if it resonates and don't force it if it doesn't. But as both Venus and Uranus get to 0 degrees of Gemini, there is a beautiful new energy that's arriving, and it feels very clear and pure. I'm seeing it as a very soft aquamarine blue. It has a very crystalline light code presence to it, but I'm sensing a sparkle and an effervescent quality that is about what's newly arriving to support you in a new life chapter, endeavor, dream or project. You could even feel that your consciousness is being newly invigorated right now, that there is a lot more coming in that you're ready for. Even if previously you were not ready or you didn't understand it or you weren't sure what to do with it, this is going to spark some fast-moving changes. I'm also feeling a surge of energy moving around the planet, and it feels like this surge is something that can happen quickly that might affect the grid. It could certainly work with any of the cloud-based storages, technologies, data centers, electrical grid on the planet, anything with computers, social media, email, any of those big systems. I'm feeling a surge where Uranus and Venus move into Gemini, the sign of communications and information, but we still have a stellium in Aries. And so there could be things that are fast moving that happen too quickly, and then something goes offline or it falls down or it falls apart because the energy surge moves too fast and is too big. And I'm feeling this energy into May. So it's not just right now at the end of April. I'm feeling like there is something that could unfold that is quite intense, fiery, and dramatic that ultimately leads to an elevation and some new solutions. I mean, yes, this could be a crash of a database or communication system, but the way I'm seeing the energy is that something is too fast moving and it floods the systems. That's where the surge occurs. So on a practical note, make sure you have backup systems and or analog means. We may be required to have more patience if systems are down or offline. If we can't access something, be sure to have good old pen and paper handy as well. And I'm feeling this at more of a global level, more of a global event of some kind that affects millions of people, not just a regional or local event. So yes, it is possible to have some big inconveniences over, I'm going to say, the next 4 weeks to 5 weeks, even into June. There could be a lot more that is unsettled. And I'm even seeing like a frenzied energy. And I'm seeing it change a system permanently. It leads to these new upgrades and developments that maybe were postponed or weren't prioritized. There's some kind of development that unfolds that brings about a fix, but it does feel like a temporary issue that could be really inconvenient. Now, all planets are still direct until May 6th when Pluto stations retrograde. But the influx of planets into Gemini are going to bring about these wildcard developments. So please have everything backed up. Make sure you are saving your work, saving to a database, saving to a hard drive. And if your business is online, make sure you are saving your content, videos, and information in a safe place so that you don't only have it on a single platform. I think that's going to be even more important with Uranus and Gemini. So it is quite the week here. And if you want to look in your chart, you look at where you would have late degrees of Taurus and early degrees of Gemini. That's where there is going to be a lot of energy and developments. And I just did a show for you on Monday discussing how Uranus in Gemini will be interacting with all 12 astrology signs. And the idea is you could look at all the planets and points in your chart by astrology sign to see how and if Uranus will be making an aspect to that planet or point in your chart. This gives you a heads up on what will be changing in your life over the next 7 years. I said 8 years in that podcast because of last year when Uranus was in Gemini, the middle of last year. So we are already in these changes as of last year, and they will unfold into 2033. I also wanted to mention that because Venus is so strong this week, it is time to look at what is ready to expand and grow for you in the Venus energies in your life and in yourself. This is the perfect time to bust out of any limiting belief systems around what you are here to create, offer, or share. This is also time to assess your own relationship with your self-worth and your self-confidence and what you believe you're ready for next, because this Venus is ready to grow, and this is meant to open you up to new levels of prosperity, creativity, abundance, wealth consciousness, and receptivity in all forms, meaning you are worthy of being supported. You are worthy of receiving everything you need to experience this next chapter in your life. So stay aware of what the universe is bringing to your attention that perhaps you are ready to up-level and experience in a more expanded state. For those of you who are entrepreneurs, business owners, solarpreneurs, healers, you are creating your business on your own terms and on your own energy. It's also an important time to assess your own work and what is ready to perhaps expand in the world or to become more refined and in alignment with this higher level of self-love. If you've been having questions about anything to change in your business, in your work, this is going to be a time period when those answers are going to be very evident to you, very immediate and very clear. If you are someone who has struggled with receiving, with your own financial flow and income, and with establishing what it means to be abundant in your life, please check out my audio program called Mastering Abundance in Your Spiritual Business. This one has been really popular and really supportive of helping people understand that they're worthy of having a business and a life they love. This is broken into 9 different sections, and there are different exercises for you to do, different things for you to reflect upon in order to get out of your own way and to remove any of those limitations or blocks on your divine right to have a business and life that you love. In fact, in the first 30 minutes of the first module, you're going to experience some shifts and changes. Like, that's how I teach. Like, let's move through this. Let's get into it. Let's get to it. Let's make sure you're honing in on what's essential. And so I am offering this audio program for 50% off right now to support more of you with this level of elevation and to make sure that you're in alignment with what is truly possible for you in the new world energies, in the new earth energies, not based on where we were, or what you thought you could create, or what you thought you had to stay stuck in, because that's what the company decided, or that was the status quo in your industry. There is freedom here, and there are new potentials available to you as a result of that. So if this would assist you right now, please check out the details below in the podcast description, and be sure to use coupon code JOY to get 50% off for a limited time. So wishing you a beautiful journey through this dynamic week in April. And as always, I'll be back on Monday and Wednesdays for another podcast episode. Thank you for your time, energy, and presence today. I deeply appreciate connecting with you through this space, and I look forward to continuing our astrological connection with you next week. Have a beautiful day ahead, and I'll see you back here soon.